So welcome to the interview.
G'day.
Yeah. Before we get started, can you please introduce yourself, your name, degree, and what year?
My name is Kevin Hua. I am a second year law arts student from South Australia, and I recently moved to Sydney last year.
Yeah. What is your favorite USU venue on campus?
I love Courtyard. I don't know, people hate Courtyard. I really, really love Courtyard. Yeah, it's just an open space. I love the natural sunlight, and it's right next to the home building, which I'm really,
So what degree? What year are you now for your degree?
I'm second year.
Second year. Okay. Yeah. So why are you running for USU board?
I suppose my faith is what guides me, and I've been in a fortunate position to be here at the university. I have overcome a lot of adversity, and I just think I want to give people like me an equal shot. I mean, the egalitarian Australian belief of a fair go. I mean, I'm in the position, I'm given this opportunity, and I think I can advocate for student voice and do quite well, and that's why I'm running. And I mean, you lead with heart and things will happen how they turn out.
Yeah, amazing. So next question, can you tell us about, I guess, your top 3 policies heading into the election?
One is inclusion. I know that Sydney is a massive place. I mean, moving from regional Adelaide, I can imagine how far people have to travel into university. And sometimes it might not be worth it. You just go to campus for a compulsory lecture, compulsory tutorial, and go home. A big thing I want to do is make sure that to advocate for people who are far away, the commute. I mean, I know that's a big thing at the moment with public transportation, getting those fares down for the Opal cards. I know they're $25, $50, 25 concession, 50 for standard. If we can get international students on a $25 Opal card, I mean, that would be really great. So that's one thing. Second thing is food, the food hub. I know that they have a 5 items limit at the moment, and they run from 10 till 3 Monday to Friday. I'd love to open up those hours a bit more, see if we can get more items and greater student items in terms of the amount, because you can't measure equity, and people have their different struggles. And I think because everyone understands that we are going through a cost of living crisis, I mean, the world is right now, it's a lot to deal with, and it can be quite hard. So I think that's another thing I would advocate for, and I really appreciate the USU so far has had those $5 meals and opened up that food hub a lot more. I would continue that and see if we can get other venues. I know we only have that venue here in Wentworth. If we can get other venues across campus, that would be something I'd advocate for. And a third thing is just making the clubs and societies a bit easier. I mean, obviously larger clubs and societies have the infrastructure and are tailored into, especially the department ones, or the ones that are associated with the schools, such as the Law Society or the Art Society. The smaller ones that people are passionate about, I mean, the Diplomat Society, United Nations Society, they fall under this larger umbrella. How can we as the USU support those smaller societies in order to have an equity, an opportunity to run their programs, to allow students to thrive on university campus and sort of pursue their passions? Something I would love to do and sort of collaborate with the other board directors in doing.
Yeah, okay. You mentioned something about lowering the prices for transport. Can you, and something about like the campaign that went on behind it. Sure. Can you name me what that is?
The transport campaign,
yeah.
The bill that went into Parliament. I can't name it verbatim, no, but I know there was a large movement behind it that was supported by Supra at the university, and that they were pushing for that a few months ago, and I think they should continue to push that, and I think they are. And he was trying to get into the New South Wales Parliament, but there's still a lot of bureaucracy and issues surrounding that. But yeah, if that answers your question.
Yeah, okay. So with your, I guess, policies,
please,
can you pick any one of those that you have just mentioned just now? And can you tell me about how did you come up with it? Was it your idea? And if you consulted someone before deciding that this was a priority of yours?
Let's talk about the food hub. Let's talk about food, let's talk about cost of living. These things are not new. We have been talking about this for ages. The board directors have been running on these issues for years. And we have seen progress. I just think it's a mechanism that USU has at its capacity that is so important that I think there should be more people on the board who continue to advocate for those issues, and more people who leave that legacy and continue to work towards that. In consulting people, I mean, consulting students, of course, my friends, the people I know, people I don't know. I mean, I think the world right now is going through a very tumultuous time, and obviously a lot of things are happening overseas that affect things back home here in Australia. And not just for domestic students, but international students coming over as well. I mean, the fees that they have to pay, extraordinary amounts. And I mean, if there's not those options on campus, and in talking with them, there aren't sometimes, then we need to be working towards that as the board, because that is one thing that we can be doing.
Yeah, well, good. Moving on from policies,
Please.
can you please describe your politics without using the words left wing, right wing, progressive, or independent?
My politics are on a issue by issue basis. I think I can't put a label on my politics, but I can put my opinions and thoughts on a specific issue, specifically when I have talked to students about it, and obviously in the wider community. But my politics, I think, I hope, reflect what people want, reflect that the issues people care about, and strongly advocate for what I believe in my heart. I mean, it's quite a tough road, politics, but I think you need more people on all sides of the aisle, no matter what controversy is, talking about all the different issues, and I really respect people who differ from my politics.
Are you a member of any political party?
I'm not.
Yeah. Are you a member of any faction within, you said?
I'm not.
Yeah. So are you running as an independent, correct?
As an independent candidate, yeah.
Yeah. And why are you running as an independent candidate?
I'm running as an independent because I want to be a mediator between the factions and the politics. I mean, a lot of what is floated about the USU board is that it's away from politics. It's separate. It's not part of the sort of factional fighting that you might see in wider politics, but in places like the SRC, where they do run on factions and they do run on campaigns. I think student politics is inevitable in places like the USU because it is advocating for student voice. As an independent candidate, I think we can bring those voices together. I mean, I am someone who respects people's opinion. I respect when people differ from me. In fact, I think I learn most when people differ from me. And some of my closest friends have completely different views on many, many issues, but I think they offer such a perspective. And for me as an independent candidate, I am running because I believe I can be someone who listens to all sides of the aisle, not even just on the board. I mean, the board is just one mechanism in which we can advocate for student voice. The wider community, I mean, there's 11 student directors. I mean, there's like 70,000 students. So the people who don't get on it, and specifically when there's not that many people running out of that student population, I think it's more important about who you are and how you make people feel and how you listen to people. And I hope I can do that on the board, working with the other board directors, but as someone who can, listen to students and not be on a faction.
You've mentioned SRC in your response.
Please.
Can you tell me what is the difference between the SRC's purpose and the USU's purpose?
Well, the USU in particular, obviously listening to student voice and running these amazing events and welcome fest and things like that on campus. SRC is looking at the more political issues or the issues that that they want to advocate for. And obviously the funding allocation is different. And the two sides work quite closely. The SRC, they're obviously independent, but they work quite closely and they touch on a lot of the same issues. But I think the USU tends to not do a lot of the SRC work in terms of the political issues that are out there because they are non-for-profit organisation that's looking at student advocacy.
Do you think that the USU and the SRC should have, I guess, a more closer and collaborative relationship?
Yes, of course, always. I mean, the more people who are caring about these issues, the better. And I know that the SRC has a very strong voice. And I think they can keep the USU board accountable in the same way the USU board can keep the SRC accountable. And I think that's why it's important for other mechanisms such as ONISWA and the Pulp magazine to keep these decision-making bodies on campus accountable to the students.
Yeah. I guess, do you think the USU should be more political then or less political?
I think you can't stick a label on political or less political. I don't know particularly what that means.
Yeah.
I think it should be more student oriented. I think it should be listening to students. I think the board in particular, I mean, it's only 11 student members. I doubt those 11 students can actually get around to the 70,000. So I think that's why you need a diverse array of people on the board. But I wouldn't necessarily say it needs to be more political.
Moving on from that,
Please.
BDS has been a sustained topic at the recent USU board meetings for the past few months. The current board has declined to adopt BDS. If elected, would you support the USU integrating it?
Unfortunately, I don't have that much knowledge on what BDS is, and I would have to go back, do a bit more research in order to actually speak on that issue.
Yeah, it's okay. I guess just following up a bit on that. So at one of the recent board meetings, an SRC councillor asked whether Coca-Cola's Welcome Fest activation was a paid sponsorship. They confirmed it was, the USU, but said that the USU's commercial arrangements aren't disclosed. My question would be, should USU sponsorship arrangements be publicly disclosed to members?
I think there's a question for the members. I believe in transparency, and if that is something that the members believe makes the USU board transparent, I don't see why you couldn't have that voted upon and those actually published.
Yeah. And given that Coca-Cola is named in BDS campaigns, would you have signed off on that sponsorship as a board director, hypothetically?
I'd have to look at the situation more broadly. You would have to give me the document of what that contract would look like. I couldn't possibly tell you whether or not I'd sign that partnership.
Yeah.
Otherwise, yeah.
So another scenario question would be like, let's say you're elected, and how comfortable would you be disagreeing with, let's say, a fellow board member or even one of the execs? Can you walk me through how you'd handle a moment where you think someone is wrong on a public-facing issue?
Has to be constructive. I mean, working with people skills, soft skills. I mean, we're in the age of AI, right? Like everyone in universities using ChatGPT or Claude or whatever. You have to be able to work with people, and of course, I'm willing to disagree. Of course, I'm willing to disagree. Like, disagreement is what gets people talking. It's what gets issues on the floor. And the important thing is that you have to be open to changing your mind. And I am, of course, willing to change my mind, and I know that I'm not a perfect human being, and no human being is perfect. So, of course, I'm willing to disagree, and of course, I'm willing to constructively work with the other members on the board to come with a solution that best supports the students.
Yeah. Can you name or tell me one critical thing about how the USU currently operates? Is there something you're critical of?
I'm not on the board, so I wouldn't know. From a perspective of not being on the board, you can have many criticisms, but I know it's probably a tough job, and I know they're advocating for a lot of students. So until I know the ins and outs, I can't particularly critique something that I am not fully sure about.
Not even from, like, let's say, an outsider perspective, like something that you just...
I mean, sure, I think maybe not a criticism, but something that the USU board can be working on is for things to be a bit more open, a bit more public facing. I mean, I think a lot of people probably don't know what the USU board does. It doesn't know who is on the board. Elections are obviously open to everyone at the university who's a member, but even then the elections are only 12 people. So it's people running from 5 spots, and I doubt a lot of people know and are apathetic towards who's on the board and what the board actually does. So how can the board be, I think through operations like OnlySWA, be a bit more open to wider student audiences, particularly for those who might live off campus and not really be involved in a lot of student life. I don't know if that's necessarily criticism, but that's something that I would definitely do if I was on the board.
Yeah, and I guess kind of like the opposite of that question would be one thing that you are, I guess, that you enjoy very much with the USU, and why?
I think it's such a privilege that we have the USU. I mean, it's been running for 153 years, 52 years. Well, it's obviously the oldest student body in Australia. Something that we should be so grateful for, and something that took a lot in order to make happen, and we should be very grateful that the board is there. I just think it's very important that we have a lot of this lively campus. I mean, all these events that are happening. I mean, I attended Adelaide University, University of Adelaide, back when I was home in year 12, and I remember the feeling pretty isolated around university. Like, you go to class and you go home and there's not really events going on unless you really be active, and if you don't make your mates and you're really scared. But I mean, our Welcome Fest is amazing. The fact that we have so many societies, we have so much funding that is allocated towards it, I think is such a privilege, and something I am immensely grateful for. And something I've really benefited my university experience.
Yeah. Moving on. So, have you, I guess, read or skimmed through the 2025-2028 strategic plan?
I have.
Yeah. So, I guess, can you pick one thing you agree with in that plan and one thing you disagree with in that plan?
I agree with the incorporation. I think it's a good thing moving forward. I think it's something that is important, and it gives us sort of legal credibility in the liabilities. So I think that's something that has obviously been a lot in the works and that we're moving towards. I don't know if I have criticisms without knowing the ins and outs. Obviously, you can publish a strategic plan, but you would need to know much more about what the things are, and that's only through being involved in the board and having those other conversations.
Yeah. I guess another scenario question. So let's say you get elected, and during a board meeting, a group of students rocks up to the board meeting and demands that you take a position you disagree with, and they're quite persistent. How would you handle that situation?
And this is at a general meeting, you said?
At a board meeting.
At a board meeting. I mean, that would be very odd. So they're telling me to disagree with...
Or something like, let's say there's an issue and they are quite persistent on, I guess, having the USU take a position, a stance on something, and you disagree with their take. How would you handle it?
Or you talk it out. You sit down, you talk it out, you express your views, you express why, you express... For me, obviously, it would come back to what students want, and what I best believe is good for the members of the USU. So if I fundamentally disagreed, then I would explain that in a constructive way, hopefully, and I would hope we would come to a meaningful compromise and a resolution to what they were advocating for.
Yeah. What's one issue at the university that you care really, really deeply about?
Inclusion, for sure. I mean, coming from a low SES background, the low SES proportion to middle high income SES at USIT is very low. Correct me if I'm wrong, but believe me in the numbers, it's around about 4% to 96%. My Sydney scholars are only about, they're in the third year now, but they're only about 2,500 of us or so. So for me, something that's very important is inclusion. It's why I've become a FAST student partner. No, it's not FAST student partner. Yes, a FAST student partner. It's why I've been involved in a lot of this advocacy towards inclusion, because I think it's important. And not just for low SES, the demographic of low SES students, but also international students, also those who are underrepresented on the board in particular. And in all respects, if people are struggling and people need help and need assistance, then those are things that I very much care about, and hopefully I can be someone who advocates for those things and works towards those things with others.
Yeah, and a big, I guess, part of the responsibility of being a board director is holding yourself accountable to the promises you have made to the students who have voted for you.
Of course.
How would you hold yourself accountable to the students who have supported you and elected you?
By obviously advocating for those issues and sticking by what I said. And if I get it wrong, and we're human, so we do get it wrong, then being very transparent and open with those voters and stating why a position might have been taken. But I am someone who strives to be accountable and strives to be open. And if people put their faith in me, hopefully I do the right things. And I believe I will.
Yeah. Moving on from that, so I believe you're at St. Andrews.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So the colleges have been in the news a lot recently around SASH and so sexual assault and the Red Zone report and the investigation into student accommodation.
Yes.
As someone living in that environment, what's your position in USU advocacy in the college space? Should the USU be doing more, less, or staying out of it?
I mean, those issues are very complex, and it's not limited to the colleges. It is on a wider university level. Specifically, the Broderick report in 2015. I mean, that was quite important. I mean, not coming from the demographic that is within the colleges, I was quite nervous about moving in college for the same reasons as well. And it's obviously a very important issue. I believe the USU, if they did find that there were those issues, should obviously advocate against them and should obviously speak up and be a student body that really advocates for that. But not just in the colleges, but on the wider university campus. I mean, these things aren't limited. It happens across the spectrum. And I think the USU on all counts should be, along with the SRC, should be talking about these issues and be very honest, because these things should not be happening.
Yeah. I guess on to the next question. So
Please.
Archie Wolfson, one of the current college's portfolio holder,
Okay.
is working on a new sexual violence reporting system following the Odyssey event at St. John's College. Are you familiar with that work? And what would you differently or the same if you say that you take on that portfolio of the colleges?
I know that Archie is working on something like that, but I don't know the intricacies or the ins and outs because it hasn't been published anywhere. In terms of that, I think it's a good idea. I don't know much about the event that you described, but yeah, I definitely think. I mean, the more the better.
Yeah.
I mean, on every issue, the more ideas, the more innovation, the more we can do as a student body, the better for the students. I mean, it's immensely important, and yes, something I would love to talk to Archie about. But if I was in that portfolio, if I wasn't in that portfolio, I'd definitely be someone who would advocate for that.
Yeah. I guess going back to your previous answer, do you know? Oh, can you tell me about what the Red Zone report is?
The Red Zone report is a report on sexual violence on campus. I know there was an incident a few years ago in 2024 surrounding it. I wasn't there, and I know it's quite a important thing for the colleges in particular as well. So obviously on campus, on university campuses, but in the college premises, and it was really fleshing out the violence and the things that happen in colleges and in the university spaces.
Yeah. Speaking about portfolios,
Please.
If elected, which portfolio or committees would you prefer to take on?
To be honest, I don't have any preferences because I don't know the ins and outs. But I'm very much someone who would be willing to be in any portfolio, and I think I could strive towards that. Yeah, like I said before, my main things are inclusion, student voice, advocacy. I'm quite good at numbers, man. I can do a bit of numbering, so I don't know, but yeah.
Can you tell me an example of like any of the portfolios at the USU board?
Well, obviously there's the sustainability portfolio, there's the financial portfolio, there's the college portfolio, a college and accommodation. I think people forget about that, college and accommodation portfolios. I think the college and accommodation portfolio would be something that I could speak to, of course, being interstate and coming here living on a university accommodation. I know that there are issues that and struggles that people go through in terms of mental health, moving away from home, etc., I'd be someone who would love to advocate for those issues as well.
Okay. Yeah. Moving on from that. So 7 out of the 11 candidates this year, I believe, are studying law.
Mm.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you why that is. It could be a coincidence, but if I might add more, I think it attracts a certain demographic of people. Because, as we were talking about before, the USU can sometimes be looked at as not political, but really it is political. And because you are running a campaign where you have to be good at speaking, good at handing out flyers, very open, very ambitious, I mean, it attracts a certain type of person. And that would be a guess. I wouldn't discriminate people because of the degree they study, however.
Yeah.
But I don't know, maybe it's coincident, maybe it's not, but the more the merrier.
I guess on that, a few of the, I guess, criticisms or word that I've heard from students is that having, 7 out of the 11 candidates studying the same thing isn't really particularly representative or reflecting the wider student body. What do you say to that?
I totally agree. Look, I think you should have such representation on the board. And because it's only 11 students out of the 70,000 that we're talking about, representation might not be fully there. Look, I have so many other friends in all different arrays of life, all walks of life, and I think that should be reflected on the board. But like I said, I wouldn't discriminate someone because of the thing they study, but I think it's experience of life as well. I mean, if I was studying archaeology, I would still be running. Or if I was studying, aerospace engineering, I'd still be running because I believe in the issues that students care about. It just happens to be that a lot of people from law, and I don't know. Yeah.
As one of the 7
Sure.
law students running, what differentiates you from the other 6?
I couldn't talk personally about the other 6, but maybe if you're taking this law perspective, I mean, I'll just talk about my story because I can't speak about the other candidates. I can't speak on them. But for my story, I mean, I grew up below SES on a farm, a second-generation Australian. My dad and mum flew post-Vietnam War. They sacrificed so much, as many Australians have. I mean, 60% of people are immigrants or the sons of immigrants or daughters of immigrants. That's important to me. I mean, that's my story. I come from humble beginnings, and I am here because of a scholarship. I'm here because someone, gave me an opportunity, and that's why I'm running for the board. I mean, it's something I'm very passionate about because I know that these things don't come often, and these opportunities are so immense. And just being here every day, I wake up every morning so grateful. I don't know if that differentiates me, but that's my story and something I would want other people like me, interstate or otherwise, to have those same opportunities. This egalitarian belief, the Australian belief of a fair go, is something I very much appreciate and I'm grateful to be Australian for.
Yeah. Moving on from that, so let's say that I'm a politically disengaged student, as I believe a lot of students usually don't really vote in student elections. It's campaign season soon. How would you approach me and pitch yourself once you're on Eastern Avenue?
It's a heart-to-heart. You gotta be a heart-to-heart. I mean, obviously I'm gonna wear the t-shirt, I'm gonna do the flyers, but fundamentally what I would want from someone who might be politically disengaged is for them to know what the board does, know who I am, and know why I'm running. And I mean, I'd much rather being on Eastern Avenue, making a new friend, than getting a vote. And I mean, I'll just approach it how I am. I mean, I'll walk up to them and be like, "Hi, how's your day been? How are you?" But I would want the people who vote for me to genuinely care about the things I care about as well. I would much prefer that than just getting someone to tick a few boxes for me and then never seeing them again and never really caring about their experience. That is important to me. I would rather not get elected on the board, but every single vote I have is someone who cares about the things I care about, and they have faith and trust in me to advocate for them.
Yeah.
That would be my preference.
Yeah, amazing. I guess so. As you already know, there'll be 5 of you, 5 candidates elected.
Yeah.
Let's say you were one of them.
Yeah.
Which other 4 candidates would you want to work with on the board?
Look, obviously being in the law circles, I know I couldn't tell you, I couldn't discriminate. I don't know their policies. It's less like, obviously it's about the person, and I've met all the candidates, and every one of them I respect, regardless of our political differences or whatever. I respect them all, but I couldn't possibly tell you that.
Surely there's like a few of them that you'd be really keen to like work with.
I would have to know their policies, but in terms of like, obviously you want to work with your friends, and well, I feel like they're all my friends, so it's very hard for me to discriminate that. But I would have to have a conversation, and if our sort of beliefs align, then those people. But I just haven't had those conversations yet.
Yeah. And then I guess building on that, who do you see as your strongest competition in this race?
I can tell you, I've been very disengaged in terms of that. I've really just been trying to focus on my campaign and how I can be advocating for student voice. But I haven't really been sizing anyone up and looking at who's my competition. So I couldn't possibly tell you.
And I guess lastly, before we move on to much more lighter
Please,
questions.
I'd love to hear it, yes.
Why should a student vote for you?
I think the students should vote for me if they believe in me and they believe that I can advocate for them. And I think before they vote for me, I'd love for us to have a conversation, or for them to at least engage with the things I'm posting or engage with what I've been talking about. It comes to the Maya Angelou quote. It doesn't matter what I say, it doesn't matter what I do, but I think people will never forget how you make them feel. And if I can make those students feel heard, if they believe I can advocate for them, that would be where I would want them to vote for me, and that's why I think they should vote for me. But I'm not here to beg for a vote, just for you to click a few numbers. I'm here to be someone who's genuine, and someone you can rely on. And if that is what you believe, then I would love your vote.
So, a few more questions, then we should be wrapping up.
Yes, please.
An important, I guess, iconic part of board elections every year are everyone's campaign slogans.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what is your slogan?
Oh my God, I thought about this for a bit. It's Kevin is key.
Kevin is key.
Kevin is key. Yeah.
How did you come up with it? And I guess, is there any message or inspiration behind it?
I mean, yeah. I came up with it in conversations with a few of my friends. They thought it was, catchy. Keys open doors. I want to be someone opened a door for me. I am here on scholarship. I would not be with you right now if it wasn't for someone believing in me. So to be a key is to open doors for other people, and I hope that I can open those doors and make sure those people get the same opportunities that I get. And if everyone does that, if everyone is a key, if you're a key, if I'm a key, if everyone's a key, then imagine how many doors are open for people who otherwise would not have those opportunities. And I mean, that's special.
Yeah. Could you tell me what your colors are for your campaign?
My color that I recently found out was hazel blue.
Hazel blue.
But to be a bit performative, I wanted the matcha green, but no, it's hazel blue. I like it. Blue is one of my favorite colors. So
yeah. Can you tell me who your campaign manager is?
My campaign manager is one of my really close friends, Alec Elston.
How do you spell Alec?
ALEC.
Yeah.
And ELLSTON.
Yeah. And what is your favorite drink to get on campus?
Come on, Mark. Come on, that's an easy question. That's strawberry march, bro. Bit of hoji chai. Have you guys been to that? What's that Mogu place next to BHB? I mean, the little hoji chai there. I reckon that's the best matcha hoji chai whatever on campus.
Yeah.
So when I head to the gym and come back, I mean that's my go-to.
Yeah, facts. Yeah. last two questions. What is your green flag and what is your red flag?
Start with the red. I'm going to start with the bad and end on a positive. I can sometimes be a very slow walker. And it's something like, take time to smell the roses. I think I enjoy that. So sometimes I get in people's way. A green flag, I don't know, Mark. I couldn't, objectively, I don't know. I love my mum. I love my parents. Is that a green flag? I think that's love your parents.
It is, yes. Yeah, all good.